there's probably going to be some bad language in this, so you might not want to let the kids watch. Hey everyone, I'm Dom, I'm a wino, and whoo! Charlie Olives! Jesus Christ, so happy for Charlie Olives. He's been around for so long, and he's kind of always been, at the upper end. He's never been languishing around the middle. A few years ago, you might have even called him a journeyman, because he's been there, but he's never quite hit the upper echelon, both at featherweight and lightweight. But ever since he came back to lightweight, he's looked like a new man. And the one hiccup that I can remember anyway was that TKO loss to Felder, when Felder just fucking smashed him into unconsciousness with elbows from inside the guard. I think it was inside the guard. It was definitely on the ground. But besides that, even before that, he was looking better than ever. And then his fights since that have just been so crazy. And this, just to put the cherry on top, I'm so happy for him. Him running out into the crowd, him laying down face first in front of the commentary team and giving them whatever message he gave him, then going over and talking to Dana, and as DC said, he got blood on the balls. He got blood on the balls. Oh, so happy for him. And I just rewatched the fight. The first time I watched it, I didn't notice when he jumped the barricade, was hugging all his friends. Uriah Hall's right at the side, giving him a big clap. It was like, oh, Uriah understands. Uriah understands how good that'd feel and the journey. And Uriah's got a big fucking smile on his face. Don't know if they ever trained together, but you can tell he's just happy for him. And goddamn, Charlie Olives, great fucking performance. By the way, that should be his new nickname. I know Dan Hooker whipped it out at the press conference when he was coming up, the pre-fight press conference against Michael Chandler, and he was using it as a make fun of him type thing, going, oh, Charlie Olives couldn't show up to fight. Charlie Olives didn't have it in him. Oh, Charlie Olives. But what he doesn't realize is that's a cool fucking nickname. Just like with Robert Whittaker and fucking Bobby Knuckles. I love you, Rob. I know you got a whole brand thing going and clothing line going with the Reaper, and the Reaper is cool, but fuck, Bobby Knuckles is so much cooler. Just do Bronx, yeah, meh, I don't quite know what it's supposed to mean. It's got something to do with the Bronx, I'm guessing. Maybe Bronx means something in Spanish or Portuguese. I mean, I know Brazilian is Portuguese, not Spanish, so I would imagine it's Portuguese. But Charlie Olives, so much cooler. Now, the actual fight itself. Fuck me. What a fight. What a fucking fight. Just the fucking first round was a whole fight itself. So much back and forth. Chandler, did he... I don't know. I'm just getting a little crazy here. I was like, did he knock him down and it ended up on the ground? I remember it ended up on the ground and Chandler was on top, and then Charlie Olives took his back, and that's a worry. That's a worry with Olives on your back. That's the worst possible thing you can have going for you. But Chandler worked well. He got out of it, and then there was this whole kind of period where Chandler had the top position and he was landing some good ground and pound here and there. But it was also Charlie not wanting to get caught in the up and down period. He didn't want to spring to his feet and get smacked with that heavy right hand of Chandler, which is such a weapon. He's perfected how to use it. And he went to get up and went back to his back a couple of times, and Chandler was landing some good ground and pound and whatnot, and then to get back up, and then not going to risk it, and then Chandler lands some good ground and pound, and then he did get up, and Chandler Chandler landed, I think it was a left hand that rocked him in the first place, and then another right hand to knock him down. And then when Charlie was on the ground, he was on all fours, and Chandler's just throwing the fucking kind of like, there's no equivalent for it for a guy on the feet. It's like an uppercut hook downwards, like a fucking Popeye anchor, I suppose you could call it. No one's ever called it that. It just sprung to mind right there. No one will probably ever call it that again in the history of the world. But I'm going to call it that right now. The Popeye anchor. He was throwing at him when Charlie was trying to dodge his head. And I'm telling you, I was fucking shitting my pants for Charlie at that point. I thought it was pretty much done. But he did the smart thing. He did a few little dodges with his head and then realized that, no, I'm just going to keep getting fucking smacked by this. He jumped straight to his back and then had the ability to pull his legs into the defense. Kick away with the legs. Use the legs to pull Chandler into guard if Chandler got too close. And it saved him for the rest of the round. And then they went into those corners. It was like, Jesus fucking Christ. What a round, man. What a round. And then out they come for the second round. I thought the first time I watched it, I thought there was a little more that happened than it did. It was done within 20 seconds. Oh, no, yeah, I fucked up. Before when I said it was Charlie with the left hand, when I said it was Chandler with the left hand, it was Charlie Olives with the left hand that rocked Chandler to begin with in this sequence within the first 10 seconds or so. And that rocked Chandler, and then Charlie kept hitting the fucking right hand over the top and then dropped him with was it a left hook? I'd call it kind of like a shovel punch, like Mark Hunt used to throw. That in between a hook and an uppercut. And that just fucking dropped him. And once he dropped, it was Dunsky's. It was Dunsky's. And then seeing him celebrate, that was just such a beautiful moment. So happy for you, Charlie Olives. Chandler, you did really well. Fuck all these dudes saying that you didn't deserve the shot. I actually made a video of why he did deserve the shot. I'll put a link in the description, and there'll also be like a little fucking title card or whatever you call it to click on at the end of this if you want to see my reasons why he deserved that title shot. But he deserved the title shot, and he really showed he deserved it in that fight. Great fight. New lightweight champion. We finally got a lightweight champion. Clearly the next fight for Oliveira is going to be the winner of Dustin versus Conor. And me, personally, I think the next fight for Chandler should be Justin Gaethje. You know, they're both kind of... actually, Gaethje's not that stocky. He's got a bit of a long body. Chandler's stocky. But they're both wrestlers. They both got power in their hands. They both like to strike. And they're both coming off a loss. And they're both right up the top of that division. And not only are they both coming off a loss, that loss was in a title fight for both of them. So fucking Chandler versus Gaethje. Match it up right now. Then we get on to the co-main event. I'm happy for Dariush, but it was a heartbreaker. Tony, I love Tony, and he had so much going for him for the years leading up. Like, there was just so much fuckery going on with the title that he never got that real title. He never got that real title shot, even. And, I mean, I know we all lamented Tony and Khabib never happening. And I know a lot of people now are going to say, like, if it happened, Khabib would have just smashed him. But I don't know. Like, maybe Tony's lost a step. And maybe the Gaethje loss, did something to his mentality. Because he had this fucking unbeatable mentality. The only loss he'd had before that, to my memory, was Michael Johnson. And even that was like a closely fought, contested battle. He could have the mentality that, if I just do something different, I can fucking turn this around. Whereas that Gaethje loss, that was a real beating. And it's the first real beating I think he ever took. And I think it's the phrase people use. I think it took his soul. I think the Gaethje loss took his soul. Because we saw how he got dominated by Oliveira after that. And, hey, not taking anything away from Oliveira, he just won this fucking awesome title fight. But now we're seeing the way he lost to Dariush, and I love Dariush. I've liked him for a long time. Speaking of Michael Johnson had a win over Dariush, but even back then, I thought Dariush won that fight. I thought that was... That's crazy. Am I remembering that wrong? Did Dariush get the win and Johnson? I just remember thinking, whoever won out of Dariush and Johnson, I thought the other guy won. And I haven't rewatched it in a long time. But I'm pretty sure it was Johnson who won it. And I thought Dariush won the fight. But I digress. The streak Dariush has been on, it hasn't been against the top guys in the division. But he's been looking so good the whole time. And... yeah, he often gets caught. He often looks like he's in danger for periods in the fight, but he always kind of just strengths through it and comes back with like fierce aggression, and that's his MO. Just that forward pressure. He's got confidence in his grappling, and you can tell he's got confidence in his grappling. Because of the way he went about this Tony Ferguson fight. I heard a few boos here and there in the crowd, probably because of how much people love Tony Ferguson, but also because like they're expecting a big balls to the wall fucking brawl. But Dariush just swept the rug out from everyone. No Middle Eastern pun intended. And just kept taking Tony down, and this is why I think Tony. This is why I think his soul's gone a little more so than him just losing a few fights, because he wasn't doing anything to get up, anything to threaten submissions. Really, like he seemed happy just to play in guard. And I know you can say, oh, that's Dariush, like with his top pressure and his ability to keep you down. But honestly, I think Tony just wasn't interested in, or not even not interested, but just like didn't seem to have the understanding that, hey man, seconds are ticking away, minutes are ticking away, rounds are ticking away, and you're just playing in guard right now. You're not. He held him in mission control for a while, didn't threaten anything, but it was just like, just hold him in that position. That was in the first round. And yeah, never really threatened with a high guard, got into fucking submission positions, and never, ever was shooting his hips out to try to get out and work a stand-up. And that second round... even when he finally did force a scramble and get on top, Dariush just fucking swept it straight back within a second. And then that fucking heel hook. I will say, I thought it was crazy. I think it was all three judges called it 30-27. I was like, you got to have a fucking 10-8 in there somewhere, especially that second round, because that heel hook fucked up Tony's leg. And if we're talking about immediate impact... that heel hook was more immediate impact than you'll fucking almost ever see. It was so close to finishing a fight, plus it had the lasting damage throughout the fight, which is part of the criteria for immediate impact if you look up the actual rules. So judges should have given that a 10-8. But, great win for Dariush. And that I just did is because I remembered I loved his post-fight interview. He was talking about how cultural Marxism is poisoning people, and he feels for you. He doesn't understand how you fell into that, but he still loves it and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, Dariush. Like, as an Iranian, he'd have an understanding of authoritarian governments. So seeing cultural Marxism slip in to Western culture would be very alarming for someone like that. It's very alarming for someone like me, who's lived in a Western culture his whole life, who's had freedom his whole life, and now sees these people with freedom start calling for a system of authoritarian government because they think the free system they're in is authoritarian. It's some of the dumbest shit ever. And I'm glad fucking Benny said something about it. Even though, you know, it was in a post-fight interview, so he didn't have time to fucking go into the ins and outs. I love that he said it. All right. What was next? I think the next one down the card was Schnell versus Bontorin. And this one was interesting because I rewatched this too. I didn't rewatch the whole card, but I rewatched a couple of fights. I rewatched the main event, I rewatched this, and I rewatched the Barboza versus Burgos fight. And this, the reason I rewatched this is because when I was watching like very late last night, I was super tired because I've been working all night Saturday night. I got up early to watch the prelims because here in Australia, the prelims, the Fight Pass prelims started at 8:30 in the morning. I'd been working till 5:30 in the morning the night before. And then I had to had the pleasure of taking my parents out to lunch for my dad's birthday and Mother's Day kind of joint thing. And that was around fucking 1 o'clock. And then I got home, I watched the fucking replays and shit, and then I had a scheduled D&D game I had to get into, and that was over at midnight, and it was just like, I was super tired. Like, so I was watching this fight, but as much as I tried, I couldn't pay much attention, so I was mainly going off what the commentators were saying, and by what the commentators were saying, it seemed like fucking Bontorin was clearly taking every round, and I remember watching it and thinking, well, that's not quite the case. And when I rewatched it today, yeah, that's what I thought. I actually, this is going to surprise some people, I had Schnell winning that. I don't think it's a robbery, and I'm not even going to argue that Schnell definitely won it because both the first two rounds was super close, and then the third round was a clear blowout for Bontorin. So him winning it, I've got no problems with. But I thought Schnell won the first. He was just landing so much more, especially to the head. And yeah, Bontorin had some good low kicks, but Schnell was attacking in combinations, and he did that throughout the fight. And usually when he threw a combination, he would land, you know, say he threw a 5-punch combination, he'd land 3 of them, usually. And Bontorin just had little moments here and there throughout. And I know, like, you judge immediate impact above cumulative impact. That's a fucking catchphrase of this channel because I repeat it over and over again. That's the judging criteria. But I thought Schnell's immediate impact in the first round was pretty much just as good as Bontorin's. In the second round, he had way more volume than Bontorin, but Bontorin landed this one fucking strike that really rocked Schnell, and they were kind of close up until that point. Once again, I had Schnell going on top. He was probably leading up until that point, but that one huge moment was probably enough to drag it back. And then it was pretty close until the end, even though Bontorin didn't, drive it home. And yeah, I thought Schnell probably still won that round on volume because a lot of his combinations were hitting the head and whatnot, even though he did get rocked that one time. So I can understand arguments for Bontorin winning both those first rounds. And then, like I said, third round, clearly Bontorin. So, yeah. When you have one guy clearly winning one round and 2 razor-thin first rounds, I'm actually happy that the guy that got the dominant round wins, even if by fucking nuts and bolts bean counting, I might think that the other guy won. I think the winner of the fight is that, so I'm happy is the one who got the big moment in the dominant round. So I'm happy when it goes that way. So I was happy for Bontorin. Chukagian versus Araujo. And that was a great fight as well. This was about Araujo coming out strong. Like, she's the type of fighter, kind of like Andrade, kind of like Vanderlei Silva. It's funny, they're all Brazilian. that just come out strong straight away. They don't seem to need time to get their fucking iron. Some people need to get some reads. Some people need to figure out distance and timing. These are the type of fighters who just storm straight in, quite often with overhands and hooks, which is exactly what Araujo was using, and just try to fucking overwhelm you early. And that's what she was doing early in that first round. By the end of the first round, Chookagian kind of had her reads in, especially her range. She was using her range much better by the end of that first round. And Araujo was already starting to tire by the end of the first round. So I did give that first to Araujo, but I was like, ooh, looks like Chooks is starting to take over. And then second round, this is the one that's the whole fight hinges on. The early part of the first round, it was like the end of the second round is like the end of the first round that I just talked about, where Chooks had her range and timing in, and she was just picking apart from the outside like she does. That's kind of her style. And Araujo was kind of getting pieced apart, and then she caught a kick. And Caitlin did not defend the catch the right way. She turned her back on it while the leg was still caught and tried to hop away and just kind of got steamrolled over, and then was on bottom for a long time. And there was a one-arm guillotine attempt by Araujo that could be considered very strong immediate impact. Now, the main reason of that is because the truck caught what could be considered a tap, but as the commentator said, and Dean Thomas followed up on, and what I agree with, was that wasn't a tap, it was Caitlin trying to find her hand and like not quite knowing where her hand was. And that is the only thing that Araujo did of any immediate impact on the ground. That choke, which I didn't think was ever that much of a threat, to be honest with you. I thought Chookagian had that handled pretty much the whole time. Then once Chookagian did get up, she absolutely barnstormed Araujo with a barrage of strikes, because once they got up, Araujo showed that she was super tired, and Chookagian barnstormed her with those strikes, landed like a bunch of combinations, and also a big knee in there as well, I'm pretty sure. And her winning on the strikes at the start and then her super winning on the strikes at the end were enough to counteract the dominance of grappling in the middle, because that grappling dominance was almost entirely positional. Yes, Araujo got time, and yes, she transitioned, especially into mount, which is one of the two most dominant positions, mount and the back. But she did nothing with them. The only thing she did on top in that grappling exchange was that guillotine that it looked all right in parts, but like I said, I don't think it was as impactful as it looked at the time. And then we got to the third round, and that was clearly Chookagian. Like, Araujo was a bit of a danger early on, as often happens with gassed fighters. Like, the start of the round is when they're going to be the most dangerous. But once Chookagian had got through the start of that round, it was just show's over for Chookagian. By Chookagian, show's over for Araujo. Araujo landed one real solid right hand towards the end of that round, but it was clearly Chookagian. So that fight, first, I thought was clearly Araujo. Third, clearly Chookagian. And the second is where you got to decide who you think won the fight. The crazy thing is, one judge called it 30-27, which I'm like, that's fucking dumb. And when I get to the prelims later, the Venata versus Grundy fight, there's a 30-27 on that, which was dumb as well. But like that. Yeah, those 30-27s you can't explain. But I think the judges did well in terms of picking the winners throughout the night. There was a point in a later fight after the Chukagian fight that the Joe and DC were going, oh, with these judges, you never know. Oh, they've had some bad decisions. I'm like, well, they haven't had bad decisions. It's just, hopefully it was only one of them had bad calls with 30-27s in fights that clearly shouldn't have been. And, yeah, rarely, I think it was one of the few fights where pretty much all the rightful winners won. The only one that I thought could have been argued about was Schnell versus Bontarin. And like I said before, although the letter of the law I gave it to Schnell, I was actually happy Bontarin got it because, like, he deserved it. And even if he hadn't had such a dominant third round, those first two rounds were so close that I wouldn't call it a robbery. I'd be like, yeah, it's fine either way. So, yeah, I digressed again. That's Chukagian versus Araujo. And, forgive me for a second. I just need to check up on... Oh, I think I shouldn't need to check because I'm pretty sure the next one's Barboza versus Burgos, which was an absolute fucking cracker. And yes, I am right. The next one down the card was Barboza versus Burgos. And god damn, what a fight that was. Straight away, Barboza came out attacking the leg kicks, and I was a little worried. Why was I worried? Because I had a head-to-head bet on Barboza, and I also had him on all of my multis for the card. So I really needed Barboza to win this. And the reason I did that is because in the lead-up, I saw he was the underdog, and I was like, that seems a little strange. And I remembered in my head, I thought he beat Ige. He definitely beat Amir Khani, and I thought he beat Felder before Ige. So even though there's a lot of losses in his recent records, the most recent ones, I thought he won. And all of his featherweight ones, I thought he won. So I did rewatch, and yes, his Ige fight even more so. I thought he won that. I didn't rewatch the Felder fight because I'm like, I'll just watch the featherweight ones. And yeah, he clearly dominated Amir Khani. And then Burgos is very good. He's got the forward pressure to put the to give Barboza a lot of problems, but he also gets hit a lot. So I was like, Barboza has a real good chance of winning this. And seeing he was the underdog, I decided to throw a bunch of shit behind Barboza. And I'm happy I did, because he paid off for me big time. He won the head-to-head bet, which won back all my bets, and then also gave me a little profit. And then he was on my one multi that paid off, which was Barboza, Chukagian, Dariush, and Oliveira, which paid me 109 off of $10. The Barboza head-to-head, I put 50 on to win me 109. So I bet 80 and I won 218. So pretty good day, and it was all thanks to Barboza. But once again, I've gone on a tangent, and yeah, what I was worried about early in that first round was Barboza was just going to the leg kicks too often. He was landing them, and they were a worry for Burgos, but it was like you're starting to telegraph him, you're starting to make things too obvious. And Burgos was landing some good hooks to the body, but then Barboza did start to mix it up. Some good body kicks, that switch kick especially. I think he landed one of his spin and back kicks to the body in that round. They became much more prevalent in the second. And then he was landing good hooks and whatnot upstairs. And towards the end of that round, I thought he was already winning that first round, but Burgos was making his way back into it. And then towards the end of that first round, he landed a real stiff jab that wobbled Burgos. And then pretty soon after that, he landed a big right hook that wobbled Burgos again, which would foreshadow the punch that finished the fight. And goddamn, that punch that finished the fight. We'll get to it at the end. The second round, I thought Barboza won that as well. When I watched live, I did think Burgos won it. But when I did the rewatch today, once again, I thought Barboza was having the more significantly impactful strikes. Burgos had his good pressure going on. He was landing good hooks to the body, mainly, and mixed in a calf kick in this round, and was doing a lot of damage to that calf. But Barboza landed, I think, about 3 spinning body kicks real hard to Burgos, right near the liver. They were a little too front ways for the liver. It wasn't right around the back. You're not going to reach the back with a spinning back kick unless a guy fucking turns into it. But Barboza landed those, and he also landed some real strong hooks upstairs. And then, but if you gave that to Burgos, I wouldn't complain. So if they were 19-19 going into the third, I wouldn't complain. Watching live, I thought that's what it was. Rewatch with a more analytical brain, I thought it was 2018 Barboza. But then the third round, Jesus Christ, fucking, there wasn't much to the third round because it got finished pretty quick. But Barboza hit that right hook that I mentioned before. And I remember watching, well, I wasn't watching live because I was out to lunch with my parents, but I remember when I saw it, he landed that fucking right hook and Burgos didn't react to it at all. And I was like, Jesus Christ, how tough is Burgos? Just not to react to that. And within about 3 seconds, he started stumbling back and then he fell over and then he fucking pretty much flat-faced on the canvas before Barboza did anything. Then Barboza just ran on top and threw 2 fucking quick left hands to the head and the ref stopped it. It was like fucking Ric Flair, man. Whenever Ric Flair used to do that in wrestling, I was like, oh, it's fun to watch, but it's not real. Like, he'd get hit with something and he'd go, and he'd take 2 steps and then do the Flair fall over. That's a classic fucking Ric Flair move, and I didn't think it was real until, well, it's not real when Ric Flair does it, but I didn't think it could happen in real life until I saw this fight. And that's just testament to Burgos' chin. Like, there were numerous other shots that Barboza landed in that fight that would have knocked dudes out straight away. You've seen him knock dudes out, or at least knock them down straight away when Barboza lands them. But Burgos just walked through him. And even when he landed this right hook, it's like his brain said, no, we're going to keep going forward. But then just keeping up that facade took all the power it had left in it, and it couldn't control the body. And then he started walking backwards, and he didn't know where to put his feet. And then that confused the brain, and the brain's like, wait, what's going on? I don't know where I am. Boom, he fell down. And fuck me, that was one of the craziest knockouts I've ever seen in my life. Fucking Barboza, a real threat at featherweight. And for his next fight, I would love to see Giga. Giga versus Barboza. Fucking set that shit up, UFC. Giga versus Barboza would be so much fun. But fuck yeah, Edson. Fuck yeah. The move to featherweight has been good. In my eyes, you're undefeated because you beat Dan Ige. The judges got it wrong in that one. Now, as we go down the prelim card, I believe the featured prelim was Lando versus Grundy. I'll check that. No, it was Muniz versus Jacare. Oh, God, I was so sad for Jacare. He was looking good, too. Like, I really wanted him to win this fight. I really did, because Jacare's amazing. And he's been on a bit of a rough run lately. I wanted to see him get a win, but it might be the end of him because all the losses he's had recently, and then to lose in this way with such a horrific injury against a fairly unknown dude, it's like, it might be it. But he was looking good early. Like, he was competing in the stand-up. He got his takedown. He was looking to be strong on top, but Grundy did get a push-off with the legs. Not Grundy, Muniz. And then Muniz fucking was looking good too. He got two solid double legs on Jacare by timing him real well. So for a guy with such good grappling, as he showed later with the finish, to have such good takedowns, so like this guy's a guy to keep your eye on. And then the actual finish reminded you of Tim Sylvia versus Frank Mir. Totally different setup and totally different finish to the armbar, but it broke it in the same place. And when they did that replay, like you saw the replay a few times where you saw it pop the arm, but when they did the replay with the sound and you heard that pop, fuck me. That was just, bone chilling. Ugh. But yeah, Muniz, one to keep your eye on. Very sad for Jacare. Then we got down to Lando versus Grundy. And this one was a really interesting one to score because I could even see you giving it 29-28 Grundy. Personally, I gave it 30-27 Lando. One judge gave it 30-27 Grundy. This, like with the Chukagian shit earlier, that's a 30-27 I did not see coming. Because the first round, I could see you giving it to Grundy because he was super aggressive with the grappling. But he did get 2 takedowns, but neither of them had much time. Lando got straight back up. And the rest of the time, he was just going for takedowns and not really getting them. So, yeah, he edged the grappling, but it was mainly a stalemate. He edged it with those 2 takedowns, but they didn't score too much because Lando got up real quick both times. And even though he was the aggressive one coming forward and having the octagon control, as I've said before, octagon control and aggression don't score at all unless the striking and grappling are even. And the striking, I thought Lando had. He didn't do a lot in this first round. But the small amount he did do, to me, was more impactful than Grundy's 2 takedowns that did nothing. So I thought Lando's striking won him that round, but I could definitely understand you giving it to Grundy on his grappling. The second round was also a really hard one to score, but for a different reason, because at this point, Lando was just fucking shucking off all the takedowns by Grundy, and he was actually landing quite a lot. He had way more volume than Grundy, but the 2 most significant and most immediately impactful moments in that whole round both went to Grundy, both with big straight right hands. And you're supposed to weigh immediate impact above cumulative impact, but that doesn't mean you just give the round to whoever had the most immediately impactful strike. Like, it's a weird weighing game where it comes into like, well, how much cumulative impact do you need to counteract that immediate impact? And it's not like everything Lando was doing was purely cumulative. Like, he was landing some good shots too. So the fact that Lando pretty much fucking outlanded him by 3 times or more in that round, even though those 2 big right hands from Grundy were the most immediately impactful, I think Lando did enough to win that round. And those 2 strikes were immediately impactful, but neither of them, they didn't even stun Lando, let alone rock him, let alone drop him. So, yeah, they were immediately impactful, more so than Lando did, but Lando's overall round and volume and good strikes won that for me. And then the third round was clearly Lando. Like, just fucking... It was like round 2 with Lando, like, clearly outlanding Grundy, but even more so without those 2 fucking big strikes in it. So, the 3 scores, I may have already said this, the 3 scores I could see as being a possibility, 30-27 Lando, 29-28 Lando, or 29-28 Grundy. If anyone scored the fight that way, any of those 3 ways, like, I'm like, fair enough. We could argue about it, but it's a fair enough decision. 30-27 Grundy? Nah. That judge is fucking tripping. But the right guy got it in the end, so doesn't matter. And that was Lando's first at featherweight too. So Barboza looking good at featherweight, Lando looking good at featherweight. I think Lando should probably get a 15-10 guy next. I'd have to look at the rankings to see who's there, but I think he, like, with his pedigree at lightweight, I think he deserves a 15-10 level guy. Next down is Wright versus Pickett, And goddamn, Jordan Wright looked amazing in that. The Travis Brown elbows. Jamie Pickett, he didn't get a chance to do much in that fight because it was over real quick, but he looked threatening at first when like Jordan Wright landed some big stuff straight off the bat, and then Jamie Pickett started throwing, and then he went in for that takedown, and yeah, while he was going for that takedown, Jordan Wright landed those big Travis Brown elbows and dropped him doing that, and then hit him into almost a takedown of his own. Like, if he wanted top position, he could have taken that at the point, because Jamie Pickett was still leaning in on the takedown, and Jordan Wright just used his hips to whack it on top. But no, he was like, fuck this, I'm going for the knockout, and he separated and was like banging shots at Pickett while he was on the ground. And then Pickett stood up and he just kept that pressure on, and I think it was a big knee that ended up dropping him, and then a few more shots. And yeah, Jordan Wright's been super exciting ever since he came in, so excited to see what he does next. And then Lee versus Shevchenko. This was a good one too. Andrea Lee, I thought, won the first round. You could have arguments for Shevchenko winning it. Although I think most people would say Lee won it. No, I think everyone would pretty much say Lee won that first round. Because on the feet, it was close to being even. Shevchenko had the volume, but I thought Lee had the more impactful strikes. And unlike with the second round of Venata and Grundy earlier, I didn't think... Well, it's not that I didn't think Shevchenko had enough volume. It's that I thought Lee had enough volume of her own to kind of keep it interesting volume-wise, and then her impactful strikes outweighed the volume of Shevchenko. And then she got a takedown in the last minute and a half of that first round, which I thought clinched it for her. Like, she stayed on top the rest of that round. So I thought she was edging the striking, but you could have an argument either way, but then she clearly won the grappling. So it's like, you give her that round, you know? And then the second round, I don't know if I've ever seen this before. She pretty much had fucking Shevchenko in a goddamn triangle for the whole round. You've seen people fucking stuck in triangles for a while, but she was stuck there she kept trying different angles, she kept trying different ways, she kept like trying different strikes, and eventually she finished it with an armbar in the last 10 seconds. And it's a good thing she did, because goddamn, her legs were jelly from holding her in a triangle for an entire round. But fucking good work, Andrea Lee. You've got your next step up into the flyweight division. And then we had Casuaera versus Masani. Interesting one, this one. Masani clearly won the first round, mainly on her grappling. And then the second round, like, she was already tired by the end of the first. But then in the second round, she got a takedown as well. I thought she was working all right from the top. She wasn't advancing her position, but I thought she was throwing enough ground and pound to keep it down. And the ref stood him up for inactivity. And she was already tired, kind of tired, going into that second. And by the time the ref stood him up, she was super tired. And then Casuaera just fucking put it on her. This was almost a knockout by exhaustion. Yes, the knockout came from Casuaera's strikes, but she wouldn't have landed those strikes if Masani wasn't so exhausted. And she wouldn't have got a chance to land those strikes if the ref hadn't stood them up at a time that I didn't think he should have. So, yeah, that's one that I thought the ref got too involved in and totally fucking changed the outcome of the match. Although, if it had gone to a third round and then Masani had to come out into a third, she probably wouldn't have had much energy anyway, and there was a good chance Casuaera would have done the same thing on her feet, been able to stop the takedowns, because Masani would have just been throwing fucking desperation takedowns from the outside like she was in that second round. But we'll never know. We'll never know, because the ref did a stand-up and Casuaera finished it right there and then. So nothing against Casuaera, definitely a win for her, but I thought the ref fucking stuck his nose in a little too much in that. And then we got Lutz versus Aguilar. And this was just Lutz pretty much fucking dominating it from the start. Like, he was even winning the striking, but like his superior wrestling was what it was all about. He kept landing the same takedown. It was like a double leg takedown. but he'd hook the front leg of Aguilar and drive through. So Aguilar was on one leg, essentially, and pretty much got it every time he tried. Aguilar launched a bit of a comeback in the third. Might have taken the third on some judges' cards. But, yeah, tough loss for Aguilar. I think that's 4 losses in a row. That's probably Cutsville for him, which is a shame. He was looking real strong when he first came into the UFC. He can probably make his way back, but that was clearly a loss for him. He clearly got outworked in that fight. He's clearly got some holes he needs to work on, mainly in the takedown defense. Lutz, let's see how he goes going forward. And then the first fight on the card, Jagos versus Soriano. That was a good little fight, man. Like, Soriano clearly was looking crisper on the feet. Jagos might have had his eye in earlier. It's been a day or so since I watched it, so I'd have to watch it again to remember. But I think Jagos was landing all right at the start. But then Soriano, once he did get his eye in, he clearly won that first round. Much crisper, landed much better shots in that first round. And this shows the evolution of Jagos' game, because I think it's 2 fights in a row that he's won on his grappling. Because even in that first round, he threw in some grappling that kind of brought him back into it, even though Soriano won the round. And then in the second round, he just jumped on a fucking DAS and did not let that go and finished it with a DAS. Soriano didn't tap. He fucking went out. But, yeah, Jagos coming in as mainly a pure striker, and then how he's continued to evolve his game and within fights figure out what he needs to do to change things when he's losing, and it being grappling the last couple of times. It's like, yeah, okay, I'm interested to see a little more from Jagos. I'm interested to see him keep growing. So yeah, that's the whole card. And what a good card it was. Fucking real exciting. Super stoked for our new lightweight champion, Charlie Olives. Devastated for 2 legends in Ferg and Jacare. But in both those fights, the guys who beat him, excited to see them move up. Benny, because he's been in it for so long and finally he's hitting that upper echelon and he's really cracking the top of the league. So I'm glad to see that. And Munoz, just for a new prospect coming in and seeing what he can do next. Barboza is probably the one on the whole card I'm most excited about the result, probably because I won money on him, probably because he was my linchpin in my bets, but also because he was always so great at lightweight, but he could never quite get over the hump. And he might be able to do it at featherweight. He might be able to. He hasn't got to the pure top of the division yet, but in my mind, he's 3-0 at featherweight, and he's looking fantastic. And this win over Burgos, who's got such a fucking heavy chin, to knock him out like that was amazing. So, yeah, Barboza did real well. Of course, the fighter of the card is Charlie Olives, taken the title in devastating knockout fashion. And I'm stoked with the card. I hope you liked listening to me. I rambled on way longer than I planned to, but hopefully you stuck with me for as long as you could. I love yous all. I'm a fucking wino. See you next time.